Hi, everyone. This is John Girardi with Right to Life of Central California, bringing you another in our 40 videos for 40 Days for Life series. 40 Days for Life is the international campaign of prayer and presence outside abortion clinics throughout the country and throughout the world. If you want to learn more about our 40 Days for Life campaign, as it's getting into the last 10 days or so here, please visit us at rtlcc.org, or you can give us a call at 559-229-2229. I want to talk about abortion in a kind of racial context. I know, alarms. Abortion is, because the pro-abortion side, it's sort of the left now in modern American politics. It's chiefly the left that supports legalized abortion and chiefly the right that opposes it, which didn't necessarily have to be that way, and I certainly wish abortion wasn't viewed so much as a kind of left-right dichotomy, Democrat-Republican dichotomy. Because it's sort of viewed as of a piece with the left, it kind of gets lumped into a lot of other social causes that the modern-day political left advances. Modern-day liberals have tried to champion abortion as if it is part and parcel with advocating for the rights of African Americans. In fact, when the Fresno City Council tried to introduce a council resolution to honor legalized abortion, they specifically talked about how important abortion was as an aspect of healthcare equity for minority populations. President Biden, in particular, has made this kind of argument when he was opposing the Texas abortion law and started to get the federal government involved with the litigation over the Texas abortion law, saying how the lack of access to abortion particularly hurts communities of color. This is an incredible sort of thing to say, that the kinds of healthcare that communities of color need, that the kind of healthcare they need is abortion. It's kind of incredible just in the sense that no one can see anything even remotely racist about this. Look, I'd like to think I've maybe become a little bit more racially sensitive in how I talk. I think maybe being a radio host has something to do with that. I try to be more careful. There are certain words that some African American people have pointed out, I think fairly, that some of these words are kind of used in a fashion that has sort of can sometimes take on a racial overtone. Some people have noted that when an African-American football player engages in some kind of a dirty play, he will be referred to as a thug in a way that maybe a white player like John Stockton. John Stockton was a white basketball player, did all kinds of dirty stuff and never got labeled as a thug. And some African-Americans have thought that the use of language in certain cases can be unfair towards African Americans. It's a legitimate perspective. I've heard one sportscaster make the argument that people who couldn't pronounce the last name of Giannis Antetokounmpo is a Greek-born but of African descent basketball player in the NBA. He won 2 MVPs, and his team, the Milwaukee Bucks, just won the NBA championship last year. That sportscasters who referred to him by his nickname as the Greek Freak, because in part it's really hard to say Antetokounmpo, that they were racist because you should just put in the time to learn how to pronounce someone's name. And it's a little racist to not pronounce his name right just because he has a difficult last name to pronounce. It's amazing that in a society that is hypersensitive to those kinds of ways in which we talk about race, that no one can crack the code that maybe there's something racist about a practice like legalized abortion that kills an enormous percentage. In some cities, more than half of all African American pregnancies end in abortion. That Planned Parenthood, which was founded by an avowed white supremacist, an avowed eugenicist like Margaret Sanger, who explicitly was creating her organization for the sake of limiting undesirable races, in her mind, from overpopulating, particularly African Americans, the Irish, various kinds of immigrants from Southern Europe, Italians like myself. That basically, there's nothing to see here. In spite of the fact that we have demanded in our culture that the Washington NFL team change its name from the Redskins to the Commanders, that we are so sensitive to the use of language. And I'm not saying illegitimately. I think in some cases it's fine to take into account how people feel about the use of language. But you can't be a society like that and just completely ignore the fact that abortion is a practice that has decimated the African-American population in this country in incredibly profound ways. The number of African-American children who are aborted is way disproportionately higher than the number of white children aborted, proportionally to the African-American share of the population. You can't talk about equity of outcomes, without ignoring the fact that African-American children are far and away inequitably killed through the practice of abortion. It's very sad how our racial sensitivities, many of which are good and positive things, to be sensitive to people of different races, to respect people of whatever culture they're from. It's very sad that kind of respect, we somehow can't crack the code about the subtle racism of promoting abortion in inner city neighborhoods, in highly African-American neighborhoods, in highly Latino neighborhoods. That we see nothing racist at all with that. I find it a little hypocritical to be, calling a sportscaster a racist because he can't say Antetokounmpo, but not calling Planned Parenthood racist when they abort millions of African-American babies. For Right to Life of Central California, I'm John Gerard.